Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle, from tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. You can read more of the show notes at pedalshift.net/085, and you can email the show, pedalshift@pedalshift.net, and you can check out Pedalshift also on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the 85th edition of the Pedalshift Project. I am, as always, Tim Mooney, your humble host here. We are 85 episodes deep. We're inching closer to that magical number 100, making the whole me putting a zero in front of all of these numbers make sense finally. It only took, 3 or 4 years or something like that? By the way, happy anniversary. We are past, I realize now, the anniversary. I think I did the Pedalshift 001 back in June. I want to say early June of the year that I did it, which was, I believe, 3 years ago. So we're embarking on our 4th year of the show, which is really strangely exciting. Again, never thought I'd be getting this far, but happy anniversary. And thank you all who have been with us from the beginning. And if you're brand new on this episode, welcome. You've got a lot to catch up on, a lot more than the people who started from episode 001. In any event, this episode is one of our patented topic episodes, and it's a fun one this week. I don't know about you. I'm not always kind of focused on bicycle touring. Obviously, I spend a lot of time on it. I've got an entire podcast associated with it. I do like other forms of adventure as well, even if I don't partake in them in the same way. But what I've been finding lately is that I've been finding a lot of inspiration from thru hikers on the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail. And I'm following a couple of hikers in particular and kind of branching out from there as well. One guy who's an Australian who's thru hiking the, he's doing the AT, and this will complete the Triple Crown for him. And then a vlogger on the PCT, and she has done the AT, I think 2 years ago, and now we'll be doing the PCT this year and is in the midst of doing it right now. I'm following her videos, which are just stunning. I'll have to have links in the show notes to both of them. It's Dixie is the one who's the woman who's doing the vlog on YouTube, and forgive me, I cannot remember the Australian's name. I should have written these things down before I started the show. Anyways, point being, I'm getting a lot of inspiration from them and from other hikers who are doing those trails. And I have come up with, or it's occurred to me that there are about 3 and probably a lot more things that I think would be friendly things that we could friendly borrow, steal, appropriate, etc. in the bike touring world. And so I thought I would do a show based on that. So I've got 3 things, and we will start off with number 1, because starting off with number 2 would be wrong. Number 1 is bounce boxes. This is, and I've got a link in the show notes to somebody who has a really good how to use a bounce box on a long distance backpacking trip. But I think that this would work really well for certain types of bike tours as well. The general principle here is you want to ride with as light of a load as possible, but you want to have certain amenities be available to you in places where maybe it's not going to be as easy to get at. So here in the US, and I know this is possible in the US, I am much less certain if this works outside of the US. So for folks who are traveling internationally, your mileage may vary, or your kilometers may vary. Post offices in the U.S. will hold packages for up to 2 weeks, usually. It depends on the post office. If you're using this thing that's called general delivery, and it's basically you write a package that says your name, care of C/O general delivery. I've got all this in the show notes at pedalshift.net/085, by the way. City, state, zip of the post office that it's going to. Now, often you're going to be doing these to small towns, because doing this to a large city, often they don't do general delivery, and B, there's kind of no point in doing this because you'd have stores to be able to access all of these things at anyways. So anyways, your name, care of general delivery, city, state, zip code. And then on the bottom, write attention, please hold for cyclist. It's usually please hold for hiker, of course. And then estimated arrival, the date that you think that you're going to arrive. All of these things just sort of make sure that the post office knows, okay, somebody's going to be here and they're saying they're going to be here on this type of this rough date. What's the best thing about this is, well, during regular open hours for that post office, You march right in, say, hi, my name is X, and I've got a package here for general delivery. They'll go in the back, they'll grab the box for you, and you've got it. So what are the types of things that you would consider shipping? Well, things you'll need in town on a 0 mile day. And I think the thing that is the most interesting, or maybe the most helpful for a bicycle tourist, is maybe a set of what I'll call civilian clothes for wearing around town and doing laundry in. So maybe you're not going to be carrying around a cotton t-shirt and shorts, or a cotton t-shirt and jeans maybe, but or even sneakers, or things that are like civilian clothes, things that you normally wear around a town. But if you ship them in a bounce box, then you can get a shower in wherever you're staying, change into those, and then do a full laundry load and not have to be wearing your rain gear, which I've done, and I know a lot of you have done as well. So that's one thing that you could throw in there. Another thing that you could throw in there, bulk things that you use, but you don't want to carry a lot of. So let's say you've got a big bottle of Dr. Bronners, the camp soap, but you don't want to carry that big bottle. And you don't want to have to keep buying small ones, even if you could find them in some of these small towns. Well, you can have a small bottle that you carry with you, and then you get to your bounce box and refill it, and you've got more Dr. Bronners. Yay. How about toothpaste? Same idea. Other toiletries, anything like that. You would be able to buy the larger size and then refill smaller containers. The other thing would be things that aren't easy to get in the places you'll be in, because this typically, like I said, would work mostly in rural areas or really small towns or places that are really remote but have a post office, maybe somewhere in Alaska, for instance. Very specific foods. If you like only one type of peanut butter, for instance, or something like that, something that you'll not be able to get in a small town's general store or anything like that. Medications that you may need, especially stuff that's prescription or very, very important to you, replacement contacts, anything along those lines, that can all go into a bounce box. So why is it called a bounce box? Well, the key here is you can get the stuff out that you need and then pack the box back up and then ship it to the next destination ahead. So let's say you're doing a really long trip and you're going to be in another rural community that's not going to have a lot of amenities or ability to replace the things that you've got in your bounce box. Well, you can ship it to the next place. So there's a lot of planning that needs to go ahead. A lot of folks recommend that you call ahead if you can, or get in contact with those remote post offices to make sure that what their hours are listed on the USPS website is true, and to make sure that they do general delivery. So those are the types of things that you can do, and best for those long tours. I think it's a really interesting idea. It's heavily used on the AT and the PCT, probably on the Continental Divide Trail. Those are the three that are the Triple Crown. For those of you who don't know about the hiking Triple Crown, those are the three trails. And I think it would be something that could be a good tool for bike touring in certain circumstances. I think the difference between hikers and bikers is that we as bicycle tourists will tend to carry a little bit more weight than a hiker. But if you're into sort of an ultralight setup, a bounce box might be a good way to supplement things along the way, especially if you're worried about being able to have access to certain things on your trip. So bounce boxes, that's the first thing that I would say would be a good friendly appropriation from hiking communities and long distance hiking for bicycle touring. The second thing that I would love to see appropriated into the bicycle touring context is trail magic. Trail magic is funny. I've always been enamored with it. It's basically people who are sometimes called angels, who will do really, really, really nice things, often anonymously, for hikers along any of these three trails. And I've run into this in the bicycle touring context, but just not as often as I'd like to see it. The most recent time I've seen this was just on my last tour here in Western Pennsylvania, in one of the small trail towns on the Gap, the Great Allegheny Passage, if you're new. There was a big cooler full of cold water and a sign that said, bicyclists, hikers, please help yourself. And I thought that was really, really nice. And they even had a little bucket for you to be able to kind of toss the used water bottles when they were done. It was something that, normally I would expect and have seen it, where it's sort of like, hey, cold water, $1, which is great too. And it's nice to have that amenity. But the fact that this was for free and was done by somebody who lived literally steps away from the trail, that really was kind of a cool thing. And that's the type of thing that you'll see a lot more often on these hiking trails, especially on the Appalachian Trail. I've got a link in the show notes to some suggestions for providing trail magic from the AT folks. Sidebar, I almost called the Pedalshift newsletter Trail Magic, but I decided against it because it is so much a part of hiking culture and not bike touring culture. But I do think that I would like to see that changing, because after seeing it last week or a couple weeks ago, I would love to see more of that out there. I think we've got warm showers and things like that, and that sort of feels like the replacement for it, or one of the elements of trail magic that is in bike touring culture, but I'd like to see some more of it. Some of the things that are out there is you'll see a cooler full of drinks, and I talked about that with the water, but sometimes there'll even be a couple of beers there. Now, that's generally frowned upon by the AT folks, but I do know when I've read some accounts, some trail journals of people, it's often very, very appreciated. All the way up from, a cooler that's left unattended, again, a little frowned upon unless it's sealed stuff, because you got to be careful of trash and things like that. But all the way up to what's called a feed, where everyone passing through a particular parking area on the trail is, they set up grills and have great big, big feeds. I mean, it's having a huge lunch for people who are coming through, and anybody who comes through is welcome to grab a hot dog or grab some grilled corn or anything along those lines. And it is one of those things that can be such a morale boost for the hikers. I think it would be kind of cool to see this in the bike touring context. So if you live along a trail or a bicycle touring route and wanted to maybe do this during high season at some point, go ahead and do it. And I'd love for you to take pictures of it and to send me, send the show, stories of how it all went. Because the cool thing about it is, like the Warm Showers hosts, you get a lot of stories and you get a lot of gratitude from folks that are out there. So I think I'd like to see trail magic pop up in bike touring culture a little bit more. So that is the second thing I'd like to see appropriated in a friendly way from hiking culture into bike touring culture. The third one, and this one is a lot of fun. This one was brand new to me. I just recently learned about this. It is called the Half-Gallon Challenge, and it is a tradition on the Appalachian Trail. I'm not sure if it is on any of the others of the Triple Crown, but at the halfway point between Mount Katahdin and the start in Georgia, which is, you can tell I'm not so deep into the culture that I remember the place where the AT begins down in Georgia. Something Springs, I feel like. Someone will let me know. The halfway point is somewhere in Virginia, I believe. And there is a tradition at a particular shop that hikers eat an entire half gallon, yes, a half gallon of ice cream as a part of their sort of celebration for making it halfway on the AT. Now, I would say half gallon of ice cream, or maybe a half gallon of something that's non-dairy if you're not into dairy products or anything like that at the halfway point of your tour. The one thing that I would say is that maybe you'll want to reserve this for a longer tour that's maybe measured in weeks rather than in hours or days. So no half gallon challenges on overnights. I've got some pictures in the show notes from a couple of people who have done this, and it's always a lot of fun. And apparently it seems like a great idea when you start, because a lot of times hikers have just what they call hiker hunger, which if you've done bike touring for any period of time, you can kind of relate to what hiker hunger must be like. Apparently that when they start digging into the half gallon, the first quarter gallon goes real quick. But as you get towards the end of it, you start to feel a little bit sluggish and it's a little bit tough. So it is an actual challenge rather than just a caloric jam. So in any event, I think that would be an interesting thing to appropriate perhaps from hiking culture as well. So again, to review the three things that I think would be kind of fun. Bounce boxes. I think that would be super useful for folks who are going on rural bike tours to be able to get access to things that they need that might not be accessible in some of the small towns. Bounce boxes, really good idea. Second thing I'd like to see, just because I think it would be good for community and really karma, trail magic. I think trail magic would be really great to see more of. I think we have some of it, but I'd like to see more of it in the bike touring communities. And then last, just for fun and pure shameless eating, the half gallon challenge. So those are the three things. And I hope if you've got any ideas, if you're a hiker or if you know a lot of things about hiking and you've been deep into any of the Triple Crown trails here in the States or any of the great trails around the world and know a little bit more about some of the traditions that are part of hiking that you think would be parallel with bicycle touring, shoot me a note, pedalshift@pedalshift.net, and we'll share them on a future show. And we like to end the show with a big thank you to all of the supporters of the show. If you like what you hear, you can help me keep the show listener supported while expanding the offerings. We're talking $5, $2, or even $1 a month. It helps the coast with hosting the podcast and the website. You can do it for a bit and you can cancel at any time. One-shot support is also welcome if you're not into the small monthly thing, and you can check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Ethan Georgie, Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lane, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Josiah Matthews, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Seth Krieger, Mark Odlow, Terrence Manson, Noah Schroer, Harry Tagadas, John Sikorsky, Richard Killian, Chris Barron, Scott Taylor, Brian Wren, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Paul Mulvey, Stuart Buchan, Todd Stutz, Mr. T, Roxy Arning, Nathan Poulton, Harry Hugel, Ferguson Meek, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Ruth Divorcee, Michelle Miller, and new to this episode, Matthew Lewis. And a thank you also to all anonymous and past contributors for making this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net. Lots of great content. You can hear the Pedalshift Project through iTunes or your favorite podcast aggregator. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his debut album. Track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Habitat, wherever cool music is available.